There is a reason I hesitated before recording these words, not for a day, not for a week, but for years, because once I tell you the truth, you will never be able to forget it. You will never hear his name the same way again. You will never look back at your memories together and see them through the same eyes, and perhaps that is why I remained silent for so long. You see, there are some things a mother notices that nobody else does. There are things hidden between words, things hidden inside long pauses, things hidden behind smiles, things hidden inside the moments everyone else ignores. And for a very long time, I carried one of those secrets in my heart. Tonight, I cannot carry it anymore, because life has taught me something important. One day, all of us run out of tomorrows. One day, the conversations we keep postponing can no longer happen. One day, the truth we wanted to tell someone remains trapped inside us forever. I do not want that to happen. Not with this. Not with you. Because if you are watching this right now, there is a chance you still do not understand what you truly mean to my son. There is a chance you still believe his love is based on the things most people talk about. Beauty, charm, chemistry, attraction, the things people notice first. But what if I told you those are not the reasons he loves you? What if I told you the real reason is so much deeper that even he struggles to explain it? And what if I told you that the day I finally understood it myself, I sat alone for hours thinking about you, thinking about him, thinking about how one person can completely change the direction of another person's life without even realizing it? Because that is exactly what happened. And before this conversation is over, I want you to know everything. But first, promise me something. Stay with me until the end. Do not leave halfway through. Because the most important part of this story is not at the beginning. It is hidden in the places most people never reach. If these words already feel like they were meant for you, gently touch the like button so I know you are here beside me. Subscribe if your heart still believes that real love is possible, even in a world that sometimes feels cold and disconnected. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is there, because every story becomes more meaningful when I know who is listening. And if there is someone you care about deeply, someone who needs a reminder that genuine love still exists, share this conversation with them before you leave. Now come a little closer, because what I am about to tell you is not a public story. It feels more like a private conversation between two women sitting together late at night when the rest of the world has gone quiet. When people look at my son, they see confidence, they see success, they see strength, they see certainty. But mothers see something entirely different. We see the little boy who existed before the world started watching. We remember the child who worried about things he never spoke about. We remember the moments he felt lonely. We remember the disappointments he tried to hide. We remember the dreams that kept him awake at night. And because I know that version of him, I notice things other people miss. I notice changes. Tiny changes, the kind that cannot be measured, the kind that cannot be explained, the kind that reveal what is happening deep inside a person's heart. Years ago, I began noticing those changes, not all at once. Slowly, almost invisibly. At first it was the way he spoke. Then it was the way he listened. Then it was the way his eyes softened whenever certain conversations came up. I remember sitting across from him one day, and thinking something I had never thought before. He looks lighter. Not physically, emotionally. As though he had been carrying something heavy for years and suddenly found a place to set it down. And do you know what surprised me? Nothing else in his life had changed. The responsibilities were still there. The pressure was still there. The expectations were still there. Yet somehow, he seemed different, calmer, warmer, more at peace. And as a mother, I could not stop wondering why. What happened? Who reached a part of his heart that nobody else could reach? Who made him feel understood? Who made him feel safe? Who made him smile when nobody was watching? The answer kept leading back to the same person, you. But the truth is, I still did not understand it completely. Not then, because understanding real love takes time, sometimes years, sometimes decades. Love does not reveal itself in grand gestures. It reveals itself in quiet moments. The moments nobody photographs. The moments nobody posts online. The moments that seem ordinary until one day you realize they meant everything. Have you ever noticed how the people who love us most often pay attention to the smallest things? Not the achievements, not the accomplishments, not the things everyone applauds. The little things, the details, the moods, the silences, the hidden fears, the dreams we rarely talk about. That is when I started seeing the truth. You were not simply someone he loved. You became someone who understood him. And there is a difference. a very important difference. Because many people will admire you during your lifetime. Many people will appreciate you. Many people will enjoy your company. But very few people will truly understand your heart. Very few people will see the parts of you that remain hidden from everyone else. Very few people will look beyond the image you present to the world and recognize who you really are. And when that happens, something extraordinary occurs. The heart relaxes. The soul feels safe. The endless need to explain yourself finally disappears. That is what I saw happening to him. For years, he carried so much inside himself. Thoughts, responsibilities, dreams, worries, questions, the kind of things most people never knew existed. Then you came into his life, and little by little, the weight became lighter. Not because you solved his problems, not because you removed every challenge, but because you made him feel less alone while carrying them. Do you know how rare that is? Have you ever met someone who made your hardest days feel easier, simply because they were there? Not because they had all the answers, not because they fixed everything, but because their presence alone made life feel more manageable. If you have, then you understand exactly what I mean, and if you have not, I hope one day you do. Because that kind of connection is one of the greatest gifts life can offer. Sometimes I wonder how many people spend their entire lives searching for it. Searching for someone who sees them, someone who understands them, someone who stays, not when everything is perfect, but when everything is difficult. Someone who remains when reality replaces fantasy. Someone who remains when flaws become visible. Someone who remains when life becomes complicated. Because that is where real love begins. Not at the start. Not during the excitement, not during the butterflies. Real love begins when staying becomes a choice. And from everything I have witnessed, that is where his feelings for you became stronger. The more life tested him, the more certain he became, the more challenges appeared, the more clearly he saw what you meant to him. And as his mother, that told me something important. Something that brought tears to my eyes the first time I truly understood it. His love for you was never built on perfection. It was built on truth. And truth survives storms. That realization changed everything. Because it revealed something about you that perhaps you still do not see yourself. Something beautiful, something powerful, something that explains far more than you realize. And when I finally discovered what it was, I understood why he could never simply walk away. I understood why your place in his heart became permanent. I understood why even after all this time, your name still carries a meaning that few others ever will. And what I discovered next is the reason I finally decided to have this conversation with you tonight. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the reason my son loves you has very little to do with the things people usually talk about when they describe love. People often believe love begins with attraction. They believe it grows because of excitement. They believe it survives because of compatibility. Those things matter, of course, but they are not the foundation. They are only the doorway. The foundation is something much deeper, something quieter. Something that rarely receives attention, because it cannot be seen from the outside. And once I recognized it, I could not stop thinking about it. I began replaying conversations in my mind. I began remembering moments I had almost forgotten. I began noticing patterns that suddenly made sense. And eventually, I arrived at a truth that changed the way I understood your relationship. My son loves you, because you made him feel accepted, not admired, not praised, not impressed with, accepted. Do you know how rare acceptance truly is? Most people spend their lives trying to earn love, trying to deserve it, trying to prove they are worthy of it. They work harder, they become stronger, they become more successful, they become more attractive, they become more accomplished. And deep inside, many of them quietly hope that all those efforts will finally make someone choose them. But acceptance is different. Acceptance says something far more powerful. It says, I see who you are right now, and I am still here. That kind of love reaches places inside the human heart that nothing else can reach. And whether you realize it or not, that is what you gave him. You accepted the parts of him that other people overlooked. You accepted the complicated parts, the tired parts, the uncertain parts, the imperfect parts, the parts he rarely showed the world. You may not have understood the significance of those moments. You may have thought you were simply being yourself. But sometimes the most important gifts we give are the ones we do not even realize we are giving. Tell me something. Have you ever felt completely accepted by another human being? Not tolerated, not evaluated, not compared, accepted. If you have, then you know how life-changing that feeling can be. Because acceptance creates safety, and safety allows the heart to open. Without safety, People hide. They protect themselves. They become careful. They build walls. But when safety appears, those walls slowly begin to disappear. And that is exactly what happened. For years, I watched my son carry emotional armor. Some of it was necessary. Life teaches us to protect ourselves. Disappointments teach us. Heartbreak teaches us. Loss teaches us. Every painful experience leaves behind a lesson, and sometimes those lessons become walls. At first, the walls feel useful, then they become permanent. Then one day we realize we have forgotten how to live without them. But somehow around you, those walls became less important. Not overnight, not dramatically, slowly, naturally, like ice melting under sunlight. The transformation was subtle enough that most people never noticed. But mothers notice. We always notice. We notice changes in tone, changes in energy, changes in expression. We notice the difference between someone who is surviving and someone who is genuinely happy. And I could see that difference in him. There were moments when your name appeared in conversation and his entire expression changed. Not because he was trying to impress anyone, not because he was performing, simply because something inside him softened. That softness told me more than words ever could. You know, one of the greatest misunderstandings about love is the belief that love should always feel exciting. Movies teach us that. Stories teach us that. The world teaches us that. But after living many years, I have learnt something very different. The strongest love often feels peaceful, not boring, not ordinary, peaceful. It feels like coming home after a long journey. It feels like finally setting down something heavy. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for years. That is what I saw in him. And every time I saw it, I found myself wondering whether you understood what you were creating. Because sometimes we change someone's life simply by being present, simply by listening, simply by caring, simply by staying. Do you know how powerful it is when someone stays? Not when life is easy, not when everything feels magical, but when reality arrives, when misunderstandings happen, when difficult conversations happen, when fears appear, when insecurities surface, when life becomes complicated. Anyone can stay during beautiful moments, but staying during difficult moments reveals the truth. And the truth I saw was undeniable. He trusted you, deeply, perhaps more deeply than he trusted most people. Trust is a fascinating thing. It takes years to build, minutes to damage, and sometimes a lifetime to fully understand. When someone truly trusts another person, they hand over pieces of themselves that nobody else gets to see. Their fears, their doubts, their regrets, their hopes, their dreams, the fragile parts they hide from the world. Trust is not loud. Trust is quiet. And that quiet trust became one of the clearest signs of his love. As I watched all of this unfold, I found myself reflecting on my own life. Age changes the way we see things. When you are young, you often believe love is about finding the right person. When you grow older, you realize love is also about becoming the right person. The two happen together. Love shapes us, challenges us, refines us, teaches us things we could never learn alone. And I saw those lessons happening within him. I saw him becoming more patient, more thoughtful, more aware, more willing to listen. Not because someone demanded it, not because someone forced it, because loving you inspired it. That is another thing people rarely discuss. The right person does not simply make us happy. The right person helps us grow. They reveal strengths we never knew we possessed. They encourage qualities we may have neglected. They challenge us to become better without making us feel inadequate. And when I observed those changes, I understood something important. You were not simply part of his life. You became part of his growth, part of his journey, part of the person he was becoming. That realization touched me more deeply than I can explain, because every mother hopes her child will someday encounter a love that helps them become more fully themselves. Not less, more. A love that encourages authenticity rather than performance. A love that values honesty rather than perfection. A love that creates freedom rather than fear. And from everything I witnessed, that is exactly what you represented. There is another question I want to ask you. When was the last time someone looked beyond what you could offer and simply appreciated who you are? Take a moment to think about that. Because so many women spend years giving, supporting, helping, sacrificing, caring for everyone around them. And somewhere along the way, they begin to wonder whether anyone truly sees them, not what they do, not what they provide. Them, their heart, their spirit, their soul. I want you to know something. He saw those things more than you probably realize. He noticed your strength, the quiet strength, the kind that does not seek recognition. He noticed your kindness, the genuine kind, not the performative kind. He noticed your loyalty, your resilience, your compassion, and perhaps most importantly, he noticed the love you carried inside you. That love changed him. Not in dramatic ways, not in ways that would make headlines, but in ways that matter infinitely more. The changes that happen inside the heart, the changes that shape a life. And yet, despite everything I have shared, there is still one truth I have not told you. One truth that finally explained everything. The truth that made me understand why your place in his heart became impossible to replace. The truth that made me realize this was never just a love story. It was something much deeper. And when I finally understood it, I sat alone in silence for a very long time, because I knew it would change the way I saw both of you forever. For a long time, I believed I already understood why my son loved you. I thought I had seen enough. I thought I had noticed enough. I thought the answer was hidden inside the things I had already shared with you. The trust, the peace, the acceptance, the understanding. Surely that was enough to explain a love this deep. But I was wrong, because there was one final truth I had not yet discovered. One truth that sat quietly beneath everything else. One truth so powerful, that when I finally recognized it, I could no longer think about your relationship in the same way. The realization came unexpectedly, not during a major event. Not during a dramatic moment, not during some unforgettable conversation. It came during an ordinary day, one of those simple days that seem insignificant while they are happening. The kind of day most people would forget, but mothers do not forget those moments. We store them away, and years later, they suddenly reveal their meaning. I remember watching my son speak about the future, not about success, not about goals, not about achievements, the future, and as I listened, I noticed something unusual. For the first time in a very long time, the future did not sound like a destination. It sounded like a life, a real life, a life that included laughter, conversations, quiet evenings, shared memories, small traditions, moments that had nothing to do with accomplishments, and everything to do with connection. And that was when I finally understood. My son does not simply love you because of how you make him feel. He loves you because when he imagines the rest of his life, he wants you inside it. That may sound simple, but it is one of the deepest forms of love that exists. Because feelings change, moods change, circumstances change, life changes, but choosing someone as part of your future is different. It means seeing them woven into your dreams, into your plans, into your hopes, into the life you are building one day at a time. And once I understood that, everything else suddenly made sense. The way he spoke about you, the way he listened when your name came up, the way he remembered details others would forget, the way he protected the things that mattered between you, the way he carried your presence even when you were not physically there. All of it pointed toward the same truth. You had become part of the future he wanted, not because he needed someone, not because he feared being alone, but because your presence made the future feel more meaningful. Tell me something. Have you ever met a person who changed the way you looked at tomorrow? Someone who made ordinary days feel worth anticipating? Someone who made the future feel brighter, simply because they existed within it? If you have, then you understand exactly what I am talking about. Because real love is not just about enjoying someone today, it is about wanting countless tomorrows with them. And that realization affected me more deeply than I expected. As mothers, we spend years worrying about our children, even after they become adults, even after they build lives of their own. Part of our hearts always remains connected to them. We wonder whether they are happy. We wonder whether they are loved. We wonder whether someone truly understands them. We wonder whether they have found a place where their heart can rest. And when I saw the role you played in his life, I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Relief. A deep and quiet relief. Because I knew he had found someone who mattered. Someone who reached him in ways very few people ever had. Someone who reminded him that beneath all the responsibilities, all the expectations, and all the pressure, he was still human. Still deserving of love, still deserving of understanding, still deserving of tenderness. The world often teaches people to admire strength, but I have learned that tenderness is equally important. Strength helps us survive, tenderness helps us live, and every human being needs both. You gave him something that strength alone could never provide. You gave him emotional shelter, a place where he could simply be himself, a place where he did not need to perform, a place where he did not need to prove anything. A place where he could arrive exactly as he was. Do you know how rare that is? How many people spend their entire lives searching for a relationship that feels like home? Not a perfect home, not a flawless home. Simply a place where they feel safe enough to be real. That is one of life's greatest treasures. And whether you fully realize it or not, you became that treasure for him. As I grew older, I began noticing something about love that younger people often overlook. The most beautiful relationships are rarely built on extraordinary moments. They are built on ordinary moments, repeated with extraordinary care. The phone calls, the conversations, the listening, the patience, the forgiveness, the small acts of thoughtfulness, the willingness to remain present. Those seemingly tiny moments become the architecture of a lasting relationship, brick by brick, day by day, year by year. And that is what I saw happening. Not a dramatic fairy tale, something far more beautiful, something real, something sustainable, something built to endure. Have you ever looked back at a relationship and realized the moments you treasure most were not the biggest ones? They were the quiet ones, the simple ones, the moments when someone held your hand during a difficult day, the moments when someone remembered something important to you, the moments when someone stayed beside you when life became complicated. Those moments become priceless with time, because they reveal character, and character is what love ultimately rests upon. Not appearances, not excitement, character, the ability to care, the ability to remain, the ability to love when loving becomes difficult. That is why your place in his heart became so secure, not because you were perfect, not because your relationship was perfect, but because something authentic existed between you. Authenticity is powerful. It creates trust. It creates connection. It creates intimacy. And most importantly, it creates permanence. As I sit here speaking to you, I find myself thinking about all the women watching this, women who have loved deeply, women who have been hurt, women who have waited, women who have wondered whether they would ever be truly seen. If that describes you, I want you to hear this. Never underestimate the value of your heart. Never underestimate the power of your kindness. Never underestimate the impact your love can have on another human being. Sometimes you change a life without realizing it. Sometimes your patience becomes someone's healing. Sometimes your understanding becomes someone's peace. Sometimes your presence becomes someone's strength. And sometimes your love becomes someone's future. That is what happened here. That is what happened between you and my son. You became part of his future, long before either of you fully understood it. You became part of his hopes, part of his dreams, part of the story he wanted to continue writing. And that is why I felt compelled to tell you all of this. Because life is uncertain. None of us know how much time we have. None of us know how many opportunities remain. And if tomorrow never comes for me, I do not want this truth to remain unsaid. I want you to know what I saw. I want you to know what I understood. I want you to know why your place in his heart mattered so much. Not because you completed him. No person should carry that responsibility, but because you helped him become more fully himself. Because you gave him understanding. Because you gave him acceptance. Because you gave him trust. Because you gave him peace. Because you gave him a reason to look toward the future with hope. And after all the years I have spent watching him grow, learning who he is, and understanding the heart he rarely shows the world, I can tell you something with complete certainty. The greatest gift we can ever give another person is not admiration. It is not praise. It is not perfection. It is the feeling that they do not have to face life alone. That is the gift you gave him, and that is why he loves you. More deeply than words can explain, more quietly than most people realize, more sincerely than many will ever understand. And if there is one final lesson I hope every woman listening remembers, it is this. Real love is not about finding someone perfect. Real love is about finding someone whose heart recognizes yours and continues choosing it through every season of life. Because in the end, relationships are not built by grand promises. They are built by daily choices, daily kindness, daily loyalty, daily understanding. And those choices create a future worth sharing.